the story, it moved me in a certain way. It's a patriotic story about a whole generation of people who gave sometimes the ultimate sacrifice for their country, and so how it affects them, but how the audience is supposed to take all this is up to them. It's important to know that generation of people. These people, unlike today, where we've lived in relative comfort in this country for a long time, but in World War II, just come out of the Depression. And the Depression was not necessarily easy times for a lot of Americans, and a lot of these guys joined the Marine Corps or were drafted in the Army, or they joined the Army Air Corps or Navy or what have you, but they just kind of came out and they had sort of a spirit, and they believed. When they first invaded Iwo, they thought it would take 4 days to secure the island. That was the prediction that the Navy had, and it took 34 days. They were still out there. They started realizing that this was not going to be a 4-day picnic. It was the first battle of World War II, which was actually done on Japanese soil, where most of the Pacific campaign was retaking islands that the Japanese had taken. This was the first island that was theirs. And the famous photograph that was done by Joe Rosenthal of the AP, it became the most important photograph of World War II, maybe. And then when you find out the history of what happened to the guys and how they are brought back for bond tours, and I was very young at the time, but I do remember that, the bond drives and all that stuff went on. I remember we didn't have the information that you have nowadays, where you have everything televised and everything, and embedded reporters and all that sort of thing. Nowadays, the competition with the media puts a taint on everything that you do, because it's tough enough to fight a battle without having to fight a public relations campaign at the same time. They didn't have that problem. They didn't have that sort of thing. They just kind of went out and did the job, which is probably better. We went to Japan and went to Iwo Jima. The island is very much like it is. Nothing's been done to it at all. There's a small detachment of Japanese military there, Coast Guard, military people. U.S. Marines, airmen come in once in a while and run operations. They have one good airfield. They've taken the 2 airfields they've had. One of them was left to deteriorate, and the other one has been fixed up quite nice. It's quite emotional to sit there on the beach and there's nobody there. I mean, there's nobody on the island except that detachment. You sit there on the beaches and you can almost hear the troops coming on land and the mayhem. It was a tough place. And you see the holes in the ground, and I mean the caves where the Japanese built their underground caverns and stuff. They built 18 miles of tunnels in a year. That's where they resided, underground, and you crawl in it, you crawl in tunnels that are that high, and you're very claustrophobic until you get inside, and it becomes a cavern like a room. But it's hot. It's a lot of geothermal activity. It's very hot, sulfur, and it wasn't a place for sissies. They don't allow tourism out there. They have a few memorials for the Japanese and a few Marine memorials. There's a Marine memorial and a Japanese memorial on top of Mount Suramachi. You go along and you'll see a Japanese memorial, and you'll see a bottle of whiskey sitting there with the cap off and sitting there, but it's full. Now, in a lot of areas, they'd say, hey, that's full, well, I'll empty that. But not there. See, everything is to the spirit of people who died there.
If we're going that way, they're kind of going that way.
Both flags are flapping downwind, so yeah, you'd go out downwind. It's my job to just tell the story. And then after that, when the audience comes there, hopefully this will give them a feeling of that generation and the feeling of family and camaraderie, and depending on the guy next to you and what it means in life. Yeah, that'd be nice.